Hello everybody, I am making this video in response to my previous MP10 carry. A lot of people wanted to see what my gear looked like when I was pre-buffing my Sweeping Wind, so I'm going to show you guys and explain a little about it. My weapon is a decent Scorn, has high-end damage, a lot of dex, a lot of crit hit damage increased, and lifesteal. I use lifesteal because when you cast Sweeping Wind, it also snapshots lifesteal, so when I switch to my other gear, I'm still gaining life from Sweeping Wind. I use this ring because it has high average damage, high dex, and crit damage as well, and as well increased damage against elites. I'm going to continue to show you each piece of my gear. Here's my Nats boots. They have high dex. My Innis pants, you can definitely choose a better one with a lot more dex, and it'll increase your average damage that Sweeping Wind's doing. Eventually I'll get another one. I'm using Innis belt only because I wanted to use Tyrael's Might chest. I'll explain that in a second. But Innis belt also gives 7% more damage and high dex. I also needed that to get the 2-piece bonus for Innis set to give me 130 more dex. Also, Stone of Jordan adds 6% lightning damage, 25% increased damage against elites, and Sweeping Wind damage, and that's huge for this build. Also using Strong Arm Bracers, they have 258 dex. This is my chest, has very high dex, also 3 sockets, and the reason I have this is the plus 15% damage to demons and increased damage against elites. When doing Ubers, Rakenov, Gom, Kuel, and Magda, I believe, they are all demons, so when I'm fighting them, I do 15% more damage to them just from this chest armor. My gloves, the only 2 stats that really matter here for pre-buffing is dex and crit damage, so I tried to get a good amount of dex and a decent amount of crit damage. Again, Vile Wards, they have pretty high dex, and Madstone. The best item for this slot is Inna's Radiance, the helm, only because it can give more dex. This one has 152 dex and 14% increased Sweeping Wind damage. For my amulet, the only 3 stats that I was looking to get here was very high average damage, a good amount of dex, and even more crit damage. Right here you see my damage is fairly low compared to most people, but it's not all about this damage number. As you've seen throughout each piece of gear that I have 31% increased damage against elites. I have 26% more damage for Sweeping Wind, and I also have a couple bonuses like 7% holy damage and 6% lightning damage to increase the amount of damage that Sweeping Wind does. So here's my stats with it equipped. While buffing, my attack speed and my crit chance does not matter at all because those stats are not snapshotted with this build. So I have very high crit damage and very high dex. So now I'll continue to show you my other gear. I have a G510 keyboard, so I have a macro created that automatically switches my gear for me. And here is my main gear that I use after I have pre-buffed myself for Sweeping Wind. And the key things about this gear I want is very high attack speed, very high crit chance, and the ability to survive. So I have about 530 all resist, I have a decent amount of life, 76,000, and decent armor. Here's my Azurath. This is my weapon of choice only because it has a lot of attack speed and a chance to freeze. It is not the most damaging weapon for this build because you can use a balanced dagger, which gives you even more attack speed, causing more tornadoes to spawn faster. So a couple pieces are the same from my old gear, as I have not bought better upgrades, but I have the 2-piece bonus here that gives me 7% crit. I am using Nat's Reflection, attack speed, and crit chance. This other ring gives me attack speed and crit chance. My Tasker and Theo gives 9% attack speed and more crit chance. I'm using this chest for the dex bonus. Also has a lot of life, and like I said, you want to be able to survive while you're in this set. I have Witching Hour, again, more attack speed. Crit damage necessarily doesn't really matter while you are in this set because Sweeping Wind snapshot all the crit damage, and you're using Sweeping Wind to do most of your damage. Here's my shield. It has 20% block and a bunch of survivability stats, but the main thing you want is very high crit chance again. It's definitely good to get a lot of survivability stats on this item. My Lacoon Eyes, they have, again, more attack speed, more crit chance. My Amulet, again, more attack speed, more crit chance, and a bunch of vitality. I also have a Mempo Twilight. This is probably my most expensive item that I have. I got it for 580 million on the auction house. Has 9% attack speed, 4.5% crit. And these again from my other set. So you see my damage here is only 64,000, which necessarily doesn't matter. It's all about attacking faster and causing my tornadoes to spawn. So here I'll show you just a quick snapshot of how I do it. So here I put on my gear. I buff with Blazing Wrath, gives me 15% more damage. I use Blind, then cast Sweeping Wind, switch back to my gear, and then start attacking. And you just see how fast it starts dying. And there you have it. That is how I kill dupers very fast. Thank you all for watching.